In the last decade, the threats facing our alliance have become increasingly complex and unpredictable. And in 6 days, we will mark the start of the 4th year of Russia's unprovoked invasion and continued war in Ukraine. To address this complex security environment, NATO has undergone a significant warfighting transformation. We have taken our defensive plans from concept to reality. This exercise, Steadfast Dart, represents the culmination of our efforts and the beginning of our new force that will defend every inch of Alliance territory.
Today, 1st UK Division has demonstrated why NATO's Allied Reaction Force is a cornerstone of our collective defense. The dynamic display, and I stress is a display that has been weeks of training and integration in realistic activities before that, is really a way of highlighting the capability to respond swiftly and decisively to any threat, everywhere, rapidly, with a multinational land component that is training with the host nation forces.
It was like having the rug pulled out from under me.
It's scary, right? And seeing your colleagues go is just devastating.
I do think that we could be more empathetic to that, but I also understand that we do need to make some dramatic changes.
Well, tonight, thousands of Americans expressing their frustration and protests as lawmakers work to cut costs across the government. Right now, there is no official figure available for the total number of firings or layoffs, but the Associated Press found more than a dozen departments have been affected. We have team coverage tonight covering a protest in Ogden and the response from Utah lawmakers. Mike Anderson joins us from there live. And Mike, there was a large crowd.
Yeah, Debbie, about a couple hundred people toward the end there with, 7,500 employees in Ogden. The IRS is the biggest employer in Weber County, and union members say they are already running short as they lose about 100 employees, with likely more probationary employee firings to come.
Stand up, fight back!
A growing crowd.
None of this is normal.
As federal workers come to push against firings that they say do not make sense.
These are people barely making $16 an hour.
Robert Lawrence.
They are not what's wrong with our government.
Chapter president of the National Treasury Employees Union says the cuts are frustrating and seem to come without warning.
Everybody here is a patriot, and they love the job that they do. They love servicing the American people.
Current and retired workers.
I think it's pretty demoralizing to see what our government is doing.
Even local citizens showing up today to support federal workers who are suddenly being let go.
I think it's sickening. I think it's needless. I think it's destructive.
Employees like Ike only giving his first name today.
We had Department of Homeland Security police at several buildings today walking around with security. So it's kind of a reign of terror in the buildings right now.
Feeling betrayed and afraid for what's next.
They've done away with all the veterans preference points with the DEI. So, a lot of what Trump's done is he's stabbed a lot of his supporters that in his back he's making a lot of enemies that used to be friends.
And Lawrence says the union anticipates many more firings once the tax filing season is done around mid-May, and many at that time there will be still thousands of employees in their probationary status that can be let go without cause. He says many of the people being let go only make between $30,000 to $44,000 a year. Back to you.
We appreciate that. We are keeping a close eye on Washington this morning as President Donald Trump's administration continues to cut federal jobs.
And today, all eyes, they are on the IRS. This comes as we are in the middle of tax season. ABC 15's Amelia Fabiano live outside the IRS building here in Phoenix. Amelia, what should we expect today?
So according to ABC News, we're hearing from sources that around 7,000, more than 6,000 federal IRS workers are expected to be laid off today. As you said, Kaylee, right in the middle of tax season. So here's what we know so far. We know IRS employees across the country on Wednesday got emails instructing them to return to the office today and to bring their government-issued equipment along with them. Now, the layoffs are expected to affect probationary workers in particular with about a year or less of service at the agency and will largely include workers in compliance departments, according to the Associated Press. Now, compliance work includes making sure taxpayers are following the tax code, filing their returns, and paying their taxes, among other duties. The layoffs, of course, part of President Trump's intensified efforts to shrink the federal workforce. And they come, though, despite IRS employees involved in this tax season being told earlier this month they would not be allowed to accept that buyout offer from the Trump administration until around mid-May, after the taxpayer filing deadline. A union member speaking out ahead of the layoffs. Take a listen.
Look, you're not alone in this. I know it feels that way, but, you know, if we're there. We're there with you, and I absolutely, my heart goes out to the families impacted in this round, and I'm sure that this won't be the last of what we hear. So God bless you guys, and take care, and please let us know what you're hearing and what you're seeing.
And of course, a big question from a lot of folks right now is, what is President Trump's bigger goal with this? We're getting a little bit of insight into that. Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick telling Fox News yesterday that the president's goal is to abolish the IRS and instead raise revenue by charging other countries as well. So as you just heard from that union worker, this could just be the beginning phase of that. We'll, of course, be keeping an eye on it as it unfolds today, as we learn more about who exactly is losing their jobs and how this could impact us as taxpayers, again, right in the middle of tax season. All things we'll be following up on here at ABC 15. Kaylee and Nick.
Yeah, more than 6,000 people. That is a lot of jobs. Amelia Fabiano live for us this morning.
The Department of Government Efficiency says it has saved tens of billions of dollars as it continues finding ways to cut government costs.
Yeah, but the group is facing a mountain of legal challenges, including a debate over Elon Musk's role. Musk is taking heat after tens of thousands of federal workers were laid off, and Democrats also criticized DOJ for seeking access to sensitive government data, including IRS and Social Security records.
Will find that, no, you can't just start rifling around, rummaging through people's Social Security data. If you think there's fraud, then why did you fire all the inspector generals?
The heads of the Social Security Administration and FDA's Food Division resigned in protest of DOJ's actions. And meanwhile, the U.S. Department of Agriculture said it mistakenly fired several employees assigned to the federal response to the recent rise in bird flu cases. Washington Senator Patty Murray had some strong words for the Trump administration in response to the accidental firing, saying it's absolutely unacceptable and frankly dangerous level of incompetence from this administration. First, they accidentally fired the people who managed our nuclear weapons stockpile, and now they fired the people responding to the rapidly evolving bird flu threat. And today, Senator Murray will hold a press conference with former federal workers impacted by the layoffs to discuss how the layoffs could jeopardize essential services, and that's scheduled for 1 this afternoon.
Elon Musk is proposing potentially giving money to Americans based on what DOJ is finding. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I love it. A 20% dividend, so to speak, for the money that we're saving by going after the waste and fraud and abuse and all of the other things that are happening. I think it's a great idea.
How much money do you think
Could be a lot. I mean, if it's 20%, would give back a lot of money to the taxpayer. And also would give an incentive for the taxpayer to go out and report things to us where we can save money.
What you're about to hear is the voices of the pilot and air traffic controllers, and it's set to computer animation. Take a look.
LA Thunder, Troy 2-1.
Troy 2-1, go ahead.
It's not weird, but I just had something pass underneath my wing, maybe like a football-sized object right underneath our wing.
Troy 2-1, Roger. Do you think it was a drone or?
I have no idea. I got my sensor operator looking for it on the camera right now. We'll see if we can find it. But it's like a dark gray cylindrical object, and it was probably the size of a football, and it passed maybe 10 feet under our right wing.
Troy 2-1, Roger. Thank you for the report. Keep me advised if you find anything else out.
Yeah, we'll do. We're looking for it now. And okay, correction. LA Center, Troy 2-1. We got something on air-to-air radar. We're trying to get visual on it.
Troy 2-1, Roger.
And LA Center 094 bearing from us for about 60 miles is where it is now.
Troy 2-1, say again.
094 bearing from us about 60 miles away is where we're picking it up now.
LA 15, Oakland.
Troy 2-1, Roger. Thank you.
All right. This guy was stopped at 14 for him because we were busy. There was some UFO reported here, but that's all taken care of now, so you don't have to worry about it unless you want to talk to Aaron. That was earlier, but it's gone.
I may not have to worry about it, but I am plenty worried about it. This is where I call in Ben Hansen to help me make heads or tails of this. Ben is a former FBI special agent and host of UFO Witness on Discovery Plus. He managed to secure that recording that you just heard because it was not made available to the public. Ben, what is your take?
This is a really interesting case. It was actually the air traffic controller who reported it to the National UFO Reporting Center, or NUFORC. So NUFORC is actually cited in the FAA regs as one of the places where pilots can go to make reports. So first, we want to thank the controller for reporting it, and also for the pilots. This was a Homeland Security flight, actually. So they were on, I don't want to say covert, but they were on a mission, probably doing drug interdiction or something like that. And they're flying along and they see this thing. So very experienced pilots. Now, this particular aircraft, too, is a Beechcraft 350C, which they've converted to include a very sensitive and complex radar array. So you see that dome on the top of it. It's actually there to track, drug traffickers and things like that. So when they call this thing in, this is about 2:30 in the afternoon. It's September 17th of last year. It's broad daylight. They got a good look at this thing, cylindrical, dark object that passes underneath their wings so close. So, I mean, obviously you can see there's big problems with that happening in controlled airspace like they were, and they weren't notified of any air traffic that was supposed to be in the area.
So the animation, by the way, it's so realistic, I was caught off guard. Was that sort of made with the help of those who witnessed it so that it's as accurate as it can be?
Well, in this case, my team has not spoken with the crew, as you can imagine, because the sensitivity of probably what they were doing on this mission, it wouldn't benefit them to come forward to talk to the public quite yet. We'd encourage it, yes, but this was our rendering of just based on the audio that we had. It's a guess, right? That object could have gone underneath from left to right, forward to back. We don't know. But we do know their description is pretty exact.
I'm also sort of gobsmacked by 20,000 feet because I don't think that ground-controlled, unmanned flights can operate at that altitude. Call me crazy. I think at one point they asked if it was a drone. What's the word on the possibility of some kind of a drone activity?
So it could be. It'd be very rare, but hobby drones can go up that high. Obviously, military can as well. This occurred near what we call military operations area, but it was not in that airspace. So anyone who was flying something to test a commercial type of drone or something would have had to call in. Now, the other thing that's very interesting about this is you hear them call out what they believe they're tracking this object about 60 miles away because they've got their own airborne radar. And the pilot calls back to air traffic control, says, we think we have it. Now, debatable whether their radar array could see something this small at 60 miles. But if true, within the 2 minutes when they called back, that would place this object going about Mach 2. Okay, from them to gain that much distance in that amount of time. So that would absolutely, in my opinion, eliminate any prosaic explanation of a drone or anything of that nature.